Do not change the station. What you're hearing is coming from the Big Sci-Fi Podcast and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode of... Wait a minute. Receiving a new transmission. What is that? What am I seeing? It's big. It's really big. Oh my God, it's so... Welcome to Season 6 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, the biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy. Join our crew, Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve, as we travel the Milky Way looking for the best that science fiction has to offer. Make sure you're strapped in tight, because we're going to have a lot of fun talking all things sci-fi. Stay tuned to this channel for the next audio transmission.
Today, we are interviewing a journeyman actor who has appeared in over 90 TV shows, movies, and has done voiceover work for various video games as well. His name is, I'm sorry, I got to say it. His name is Rico E. Anderson. I don't know why Rico makes me want to do that voice. And he is today's guest on the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. But before we begin, let's have the members of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast introduce themselves to Rico, and they are...
Hi, I'm Adina from Maryland.
Hey, Rico, it's Brian from Ohio. I'm not going to do a voice, though.
No.
I can't do a voice.
Just so we...
What's going on, guys? I've never gotten a well, first of all, I've never been called a journeyman, so that's the first. And I've never gotten a Joe Pesci style introduction like that. So
is that what that was? Okay.
I don't know. First thought that came to mind, Pesci.
You got Pesci. You know, am I funny? Do you think I'm funny? Are you laughing at me? Is that from from Goodfellas? Yeah, exactly. And our third member of the group is Cris, and he isn't here. And I'm Steve. And I'm the host of today's podcast, so blame me. And let me say how grateful we are to be part of the Trek Geeks network of podcasters. You can always find our prior episodes and always share them with your friends and neighbors. It gets us more and more up the order of podcast shows. So without further ado, let's meet Rico and learn more what it's like to be a successful, as I said, journeyman actor. And I think I'm going to start off with the very first question I have for you is, how did you get the acting bug?
At 6 years old, it hit me.
Wow.
And I'm not even joking. At 6 years old, I was just like, I think this is something that I would love to do. I remember watching TV and just seeing some of my favorite shows and just picturing myself being there and being on there and doing those, just playing, also not just playing the characters that I saw, but picturing in my head, creating characters actually. And
oh wow.
I just always saw TV differently, even as a kid. And I always knew that's something that I wanted to be a part of. And you know how as we grow up and we see people who we can be drawn towards, that we can relate to, that may inspire us because of whatever, in my case, grown men, doing cool stuff on TV and in film and things like that. Grown Black men doing really cool stuff, and just seeing that representation and wanting to be part of that representation, but also having that overall fun of doing television and film, and really wanting to be in that mix. So it to me was a dream that even at 6, I don't know if I really fully realized it, how much I wanted to, but I just knew that whenever I watched anything, even cartoons, I wasn't really fully understanding voiceover, even as a kid. I knew the voices were coming from somewhere, watching this animated Super Friends or whatever, so it's like, because of that, I just knew I wanted to be in this mix, this Hollywood mix. Yeah, ever since six.
Wow. Was there a particular show or character on a show, maybe a few that you particularly were drawn towards or that resonated with you?
Well, I will or will not admit to having seen these shows when they first came out, but there's a lot of classic TV out there that may have certain names like I don't know, Good Times or All in the Family,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
Love Boat, or Fantasy Island.
We're in the 1970s here, kids. Okay.
Yeah. You see, kids. Yeah. Before all things recordings and stuff like that, you'd have to be there when it showed. Otherwise, you were screwed.
You had to wait till the summer reruns. I grew up that way in the 60s watching TV, and if you missed an episode, or if two episodes were running against each other, of series that you like, well, you had to choose one over the other. Mm-hmm.
The struggle was real back in the day.
And even in syndication, you just had to be lucky that they aired what you hoped to see. Watching Star Trek, the original Star Trek in syndication, there were episodes I didn't see till DVDs came out, just because they never happened to get shown. So
which makes me wonder: did they actually show all those original series episodes when they were, in syndication shown?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
79 episodes, were they all being shown? Yeah.
Really?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Well, because when I started to really become a Trekkie, which was after season 1 of Next Generation, I went back and I deliberately started taping original series episodes. And yes, there were ones that I did not see till I was an adult.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
It's a trip. What was the original question?
What characters or shows?
We tangent a lot.
Yeah.
And trust me, I do too. What was it again?
Which characters or shows particularly resonated with you or inspired you?
And you started rattling off a bunch of shows from the 70s.
Yeah. I was a big old TV head, so I just watched everything. But one of the shows that I will say was a huge inspiration because of going back to representation and all of that was, I remember watching Roots for the first time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that was like an era where most kids, and children's parents, especially Black children, their parents sat us down and said, "Hey, listen, so we know you normally go to bed around 9. This is stay up a little bit later because there's this show that's coming on, and it's called Roots, and it's about your history as an African American here in the United States, how we got here, and just the whole history of slavery, and just a part of American history that is very important. And it's important that you know this." And so she, like many other parents, had me staying up way past my bedtime to watch them. And of course, what was cool about watching it alongside of learning its history and everything was seeing pretty much every Black actor in Hollywood.
Yes. Yes. Everyone contributed to that. Yeah.
I mean, they were pretty much like, all right, look, we got to make this series. Who do we got? Let's just literally get the blacklist and not the blacklist of people who
Thank you.
Who, couldn't work because of this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
The other blacklist of Black actors, and literally you look at that show and it's a who's who of everybody who was active back then, or at least the majority of like the name people, and even some people who actually rose to fame as a result of it.
And you think about
LeVar Burton.
Exactly, LeVar Burton, who was a young kid in that film or the TV series, went on to do so much good work on PBS, and then ended up on one of Star Trek's most beloved series. So
fixing the ship, making sure the ship ran.
That's what he did. Yeah,
and representing like hell. And what was great about it was, even just fast forwarding to Next Gen, obviously seeing that representation, but also the nostalgia of seeing, oh my God, that's LeVar Burton, that's Kunta Kinte, that's and for myself, that's something that I was really inspired by seeing in terms of his work and just what he represented watching Roots. So Roots was a big inspiration for myself, and it was a big draw, and it was one of those shows where I was just like, oh my God, I'm seeing this person from this show, that person from that show, and all these people. And again, it just heightened my want to be a part of the industry that I've been very blessed enough to still be a part of to this day. So.
Was your family very supportive of your desire to? Sorry.
No, you read my mind. That was the question I was going to ask. Thank you.
Yeah, they were. And they still are to this day. There's like most families, there's always concerns because of the thoughts of what the industry can deliver and what it very challenging towards delivering in terms of just
a regular paycheck.
Thank you. Regular paycheck, making money, being successful, the percentages and all that kind of stuff. And I always say, like Han Solo, hey, never tell me the odds, because at the end of the day, I want to do it. And I told myself, I'm going to do it no matter what I hear, no matter what, anything. And thank God I did have that support, because it obviously that helps, to have the thumbs up from your loved ones. And it's been great. And of course, like with most things, you got your haters, you got your people who will try to discourage you. But it was never family. It was never family.
That's great. That's great.
But my will has always been more than anybody ever telling me I can't do this, or you really should think about plan B, or it never had a plan B, my ambition is so high. It knows no limits. I've wanted to do this, and I told myself I'm going to do this, and with the understanding it is going to be tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. You got to listen to yourself at the end of the day and do what you feel is right for you. And in this case, the only way any levels of success is going to happen is if you really just go for it.
Work for it. Yeah.
That's something that is, as a parent, I've got a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and they're both super creative. They love to sing. They're getting really good at drawing. My son could sing or act, I believe, if he I think my daughter's she really loves to help people. She's probably gonna be more of a I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up a nurse or a scientist or something like that either. But my wife and I are constantly trying to instill in them anything worth doing that you love doing, irregardless, is going to be hard.
Yes.
And you have to work hard. And if you want to do it and you put the effort in and you believe in yourself, you got to go for it and let the results lay where they do. But you don't not go for it because it's hard. And so it's pretty cool to hear you to talk about that a little bit. It's ministering to my heart, brother. So as I think about my own parenting life, but so you talked about wanting to be in television and in film, in these amazing inspirations you have, especially with Roots. Was there a moment when you tested yourself for the first time? Like, can I act? Like, how did you actually get into acting?
I'm originally from Chicago, south side of Chicago. I lived there with my mom and my siblings and a bunch of family members until I was 11. And then my mom and my then 2 brothers, we moved to Berkeley, California. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so from there, we were raised Catholic. And so we went to this Catholic school in Berkeley, and we had this, basically like this showcase. And I had done something. I had twisted my ankle, broke my foot or something. I was a rough boy. Honestly, I've broken it. I've sprung it. I've twisted it. I've fractured it. I have done everything one can do minus losing the foot.
You tested mom at the same time by putting her through all that.
My mom was just like, these boys, man. Oh God. It's just like, it got to the point where the doctor was even like, hello, Rico. What do we
You're
do?
going to punch your card? Yeah, the card that you punched every time.
Basically, yeah. Get a free coffee next time. It was we were doing like a scene from Jesus Christ Superstar. And
love it.
Yeah, that song, "You Are the Christ, You're the Great Jesus Christ." Okay, so we were doing that. And we did it kind of like not chorus line, but kind of like a Rockette thing. So it was kind of like,
yeah.
So like that. So we're doing this, and at the time I wasn't on crutches. I wasn't hurt. But then I come to school, I'm hurt. And so of course the teacher is like, "How are we going to do this?" Because I'm part of that line. And so long story short, I get in the line and I'm on my crutches and I just start doing it. And I have a cast on. So I just start doing it where I'm on the crutches, and instead of obviously going full throttle on it, I do it in a funny way. And I ended up killing him, man. I blew the house down.
The audience loved it.
They were laughing their butts off. And so it was a funny thing that kind of kicked in where I was just like, yes, this is cool. I like this. I'm making people laugh, and I'm on stage and I'm doing something. And it wasn't deliberate. It was just in my mind. I was just like, hey, this is what I need to do if I'm going to still be a part of this number. So I did it. And then the next big one was this show that I did called The Faculty Follies, which was put on by my 7th and 8th grade drama teacher, George Felker, in Berkeley, who it was basically a tribute to the old musicals of back in the day, the Busby Berkeley musicals, and
oh wow,
Singing in the Rain and all that. So, and what he did was he cast the staff, the teachers, as different characters. And there was this one kid who was playing Mr. Bojangles, and he got sick. This is like one of those classic "I'll do it" stories. So he gets sick. My 7th grade teacher, Ms. Delp, was playing Shirley Temple, and so I ended up playing.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I ended up playing Mr. Bojangles. My mom actually was the choreographer. She tap danced, and so she's teaching me the number. And it was one of those last minute, gotta learn it. Only got like 2-3 days to learn it and rehearse it and do it. Long story short, did it, and the audience loved it, and I loved it, and it was like kind of the beginning of just doing all this really cool stuff. And I was just like, theater. I like theater. I think I really like theater. I want to do more theater. So I did a ton of theater in high school at Berkeley High, which was very much a big deal in terms of what a high school would offer in terms of theater arts department. We were, our theater that we performed in was like a huge, it was called the Little Theater. So it was a small theater, but it was connected to the Berkeley Community Theater, which was also owned and connected to follow me here, to the Berkeley City Hall, which used all that stuff for all their stuff. But since we were right across the street from, we had carte blanche to use all that stuff. At the time, we had the latest in technology in terms of lights, sound. We had full-on wood shop, big old work department. I mean, we were killing the game as far as a high school rocking.
That's amazing.
Musicals, operettas, plays, dance productions, band. I mean, jazz. I mean, we had so much going on, and I was a part of the musicals, the plays, the operettas. Just really being in that theater mix and being a part of basically what is the history of the industry as a whole, because that's, theater is where everything started out. Wow. So I had a great beginning in terms of my acting career, just being immersed in this wonderful medium. Like I have very like.
I get the feeling you like theater, Rico. Just a little bit.
I don't see where you get that idea, but sure. You do.
I wish our listeners, we're just an audio podcast. I wish our listeners, just moments like this when I wish we would do video and figure that out, because it was fantastic
Oh, thank you.
our faithful listeners to see Rico's excitement. It was just tangible on the screen here.
Yes.
And he talks
Really
with his
great.
hands like I do.
It's so much fun. I mean, it's just so theater. There's nothing like it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's raw. It's rough, rugged, and raw. Anything happens once the show starts, you roll with it. And I could write a book on story.
I've got a philosophy. Well, I don't know if it's not a worked out philosophy. It's an idea that I think it's helpful for anybody if they get a chance to be a part of any theater production to do it. I'm telling you, the one college theater production I was a part of, I had 3 roles, costume changes, dance scenes, singing numbers, all that stuff. I was on stage for a lot of the play. I didn't have the most lines or anything, but I was on stage a lot. That broke me out of my shell and taught me so much about going for it in life and letting, rolling with it. Like you just say, you got it. Sometimes lines come out weird or, you miss marks or things are forgotten and you just got to roll with it. You learn so much from being in theater.
You do. It's just so much fun, and it teaches so many. I mean, you really nailed it. It teaches a lot of cool lessons about just how life will hit you at certain times, and you just know you got to know how to deal with it. You got to know how to deal with spot situations. You got to know how to deal with on the spot moments. It's like in theater, people paid that ticket, and so you messed up on a line. All they're looking at is, hey, what you gonna do? At the end of the day, it's just like, oh man, lights could go out. Somebody could go up on a line or say a line that's like 5 or 6 pages, or 2 scenes over, and you're just looking at them like, right.
Goodness.
Okay. All right. We're doing this tonight. Okay. So let me see if I can get all of us back on track. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had this one theater company that I was part of. One of the main members was, he always said, look, at the end of the day, the audience don't know jack.
Yeah.
But that's a testament to you as the actor or the performer or whatever your position is. Work it out. Even if you're up in the light booth, man, work it out. Work it out.
Yeah.
Willing, I say this all the time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm hogging Rico for a minute.
No, that's okay. You're enjoying this, Brian. You roll with it.
I say this all the time on our podcast, Rico. Willing suspension of disbelief. That audience comes into a theater wanting to be entertained, wanting to escape, wanting to be taken away into a different world, a different time and place, all that stuff. And so even if you do make mistakes, sometimes they really, truly don't see them as mistakes. And if you're good at flowing with it and figuring it out as you go, I mean, it can become part of the charm of a person's experience too,
Way and also, especially if you don't know the piece, of course, that plays to you just your whole experience of coming up on something new. But even if you do know the piece, and you can tell, they just kind of hiccup. The beauty of it is they're also seeing you come out of it, and get back on track, and that's part of the experience of that ticket that you got, because at the end of the day, you're seeing the art as it truly was meant to be seen. And I say that with no disrespect to film and TV, but the art is really taking what has been created and just continuously making it better every performance. Performance. Yeah.
Okay, so using the term I use for you, so you're a journeyman from stage to television and movies. How did that happen?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to go to Hollywood and continue that journey there by doing film and TV. When I graduated high school, I went to San Francisco State and studied there. And while I was studying at State, I started immersing myself in film. And it was basically a lot of independent film. And I started doing background work as well, different movies that would come to the Bay Area to shoot. And so I hooked up with a lot of the filmmakers at San Francisco State, and just a lot of people who were writers and people who wanted to put together features as well as short films. And see, growing up in the 90s was a huge renaissance in Black awareness. You had a lot of movies like Spike Lee was big back then. John Singleton came up on the scene, and you had a lot of movies that dealt with a lot of Black issues, Black life, social consciousness, and things like that. And from the success of all these wonderful movies and seeing these Black directors, there was a lot of inspiration coming out of that. So that drew a lot of amazing writers, producers, directors who became really close friends of mine, who are really wonderful friends of mine to this day. And, we didn't have no money. We didn't have no money, but we had what we had and was able to get what we can get. And we would make films. We would make short films, or we would make, having access to the performing arts department and the broadcasting department, sometimes we had access to that. We were able to, people just knew people, or maybe they had a little Super 8 camera or something like that.
Right.
We just worked it out, and a lot of really cool things were created. I mean, we made music videos, we made short films, I made a couple of big features, and it was just a wonderful time to be a part of this revolution of filmmaking that was already very successful due to the success of people like Spike Lee and, like I said, John Singleton and a lot of the other movies that would come out around that time. And I was in it. I was in that mix. And so that's what kicked it off. And that's what even made me want to, but at that point, I was just like, I can't get to LA. I can't get there any faster at this point, because I really wanted to go. But I had obligations at home as well with family. And I just felt to myself, I wasn't really ready to go yet, not take that plunge. But while I was still up there, I was still doing a lot of stuff. So. Yeah.
So when did you
moved to LA, so.
So how late into your career did you finally make it to LA? And did you start doing television at that time when you get to Los Angeles?
So when I got to LA, I did more film, tried to get into more TV. It's not easy getting a theatrical agent. So it was a little hard getting the type of representation to get me there, to get me in those doors, to get me in those in front of those casting directors, the producers, directors, and what have you. Didn't take long, but eventually I was able to get a manager and an agent. Part of the catch-22 of this industry is, and I was SAG, I was in the union, but a big part of the catch-22 of the industry is a lot of agents don't want to take you on if you don't have a demo reel showcasing your work. And even if you have a demo reel, a lot of times they don't want to take you on because you haven't been on a big show or a well-known show or a well-known movie. So it's like, well, how can I do that if I don't have somebody who has the juice to help get me in the door so I can audition while the draw's off and get up in there? And then boom, that. But eventually, there's usually always somebody who's going to be like, I like this guy. He's got the look that I need. I need somebody like him on my roster. He looks like he's somebody that I could work with. I could help with the career. I can help get him in some doors. And so that's what happened. I ended up hooking up with a rep. Well, at first I had a commercial agent, and then I ended up hooking up with a representative, a manager who was able to get me in some doors and get me some amazing auditions where I ended up booking. And booking is kind of a snowball. It's like before you know it, your name is being floated around, and maybe you don't get that first audition, or maybe you don't book that job. But the fact that Rico Anderson, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I think
that guy who was in that thing, we'll use him here.
Yes. And that's the thing, because it's like you you want people to see you. I mean, you want people to know exactly who you are and what you've done, but the majority of the actors in this town are pretty much that guy or that girl who was in that thing. Because you can have your A-listers and your people who are really well known, and then you can just have people who are just like, yo, I've seen you in stuff, man. What if I say, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah. And so, and nowadays with the power of social media and all sorts of different avenues to be able to really get people to know, hey, I got this show dropping. I'm doing this next week. I'm in this. Right. It makes it a lot easier. But yeah, it was that was a big part of the journey as far as crossing over into doing TV. My first big network job was The Shield, if y'all remember. Oh,
yes. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
The Shield was my first big one with Michael Chiklis on the FX.
That's great.
Just snowballed from there.
So the being involved with the Star Trek film Renegade.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of, I use this word, illuminaries of Star Trek that were in it, and you got to be in it as well. Did you work alongside with these people? Did you spend time with Walter Koenig and did you spend time with Gary Graham or Tim Russ or Robert Picardo at all?
Yeah. So just to add on to what you were saying, this is a who's who of sci-fi franchises, because it's not only people from Star Trek. Yep. I mean, you got people from the Terminator series, you got people from Star Wars, you got people from of course now I'm blanking, Blade Runner, Sean Young, Edward Furlong, and then of course, yes, your folks from Trek. The main people that I worked with on there was Bruce Young, who played my father, Barada, and he's well known for many things, but he was also in Jurassic Park. But also my main, I would say, Tim Russ directed it. So worked with Tim every single time I was on set. Did not work with Picardo, but I saw him on set. I was there. I pretty much saw everybody. Yeah. Met Walter and saw him for the first time. Never had any scenes with him, but had a chance, some great opportunities to sit and just chop it up with him. But yeah, Adrienne Wilkinson, who was my nemesis, I worked with her. It was. I have to say, to be able to say that I worked on something that had like so many various franchises that I loved, growing up is it's pretty surreal, and I'm pretty blessed to be able to say that I've worked with these people either directly, like toe to toe, or just being on the same call sheet, or just being in the same IMDb credits, or just being a part of the same project. Really, when you think about it, because it was such an amazing piece of work to be a part of and to do. And, this was happening at a time when there was no Star Trek going on. Cris had been off the air, I think at the time, for maybe 4 or 5 years. And there just wasn't any Trek going, and there was a big question of what was going to happen to Trek.
Right.
Following Enterprise's cancellation. So a lot of independent films came out, fan films, independent films, a lot of different, it was a great time where the fans really stepped up and they were just like, let's do some things here. Let's see some stuff. Let's see what we can do. And what was beautiful about Renegades was the fact that this was helmed by people from Star Trek. And this was and really done by people who have been in this mix and have, in the case of Tim, reprised his role as Tuvok. In the case Picardo played Dr. Zimmerman. He wasn't the doctor, but he played Zimmerman. So, and just, of course, again, Furlong, John Connor, it's just like,
I know,
do some stuff with him and just, oh man, Sean Young. I mean, just these icons of the sci-fi industry. just cool, man.
It's just too bad that after some point CBS pulled the plug and said no more independent films. You can't do that anymore. Don't even think of it.
Well, it was really more just there has to be a limit on how this is going to be done because of things that were happening that were going too far.
Yeah.
And as a result, they just kind of had to reel things in. You know, it was a great thing to be able to be a part of that movement at the time that was really needed when people were still starving for that brand of sci-fi. I mean, we still had the conventions, and we, of course, still had other means of being able to get our fix. I was a huge fan, and still to this day, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek audiobooks, the old school Star Trek audiobooks.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Rex was doing a lot of the narration, and Tim and Armin and
that's my favorite one right there.
Shadows of the wow. Okay.
That audiobook is phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. You had them doing this and really being I mean, you're hearing these characters again. Frakes is a beast. Listen, I guarantee. Here's my recommendation. Also, my recommendation is to read it, but go and listen to Crossover.
I read it. Yeah, I read it.
Yes,
read it.
So you already know. You already know what's up with Crossover. It's got Next Gen, and then they also have Kirk. I'm sorry, they also have Spock, McCoy, and Scotty, and it's just a great story. I mean, Judith and Garfield Reed-Stevens can do no wrong when it comes to storytelling.
Yes.
And put them together and get Frakes in there to do all the brilliant. Ships of the Line is another one as well. Again, combining the old Trek with the new Trek, the new Trek at the time, and how the stories intertwined. And I mean, it's just beautiful work. And you feel like you're getting episodes of Next Gen that just never happened because of whatever reason. There was no 8th season. I don't know, but it's just great. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I have lifelong friends to this day.
Sweet.
And so yeah.
And
So
now, I'm sorry,
Brian.
Steve.
No, go ahead, Brian.
I've been discovering, Rico, a lot of those old school audiobooks on YouTube now. People are putting them on YouTube, and you can find. I'm finding every now and then some I haven't ever listened to before, and they're just fantastic. I mean, they are highly abridged for the most part, but the actors did such a phenomenal job of bringing those stories to life. It was like extra Trek. That's what I used those audiobooks for. And I actually had the cassette tapes and a few of the CDs, and that was my Trek when I didn't have Trek, That was it.
I still have a few of those cassette tapes.
I do too, somewhere in a box over there.
No, I agree. And the one that you had shown, Brian.
Shadows on the Sun.
Yes, that's definitely one of the best ones. And they have that on. I think they do have that on YouTube. And they also have Crossover, and they also have Ships of the Line. So, yeah.
I was very big into reading the novels back in the late 80s, early 90s. I really enjoyed the original series novels because, it was extra Trek. And I was always a fan of ones that were actually standalone stories that took place in universe and didn't necessarily involve the main characters, because I loved the extra depth you got to some random planet or to Vulcan or Klingon culture or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful because those, books can, and especially in the case of Star Trek, it really gives you an opportunity to really deep dive in a way where production could, but people people want to see a ton of their characters, and I would say probably over more than let's do a 8 episodes of Vulcan or whatever. What's that?
Well, this one I had sitting here only because my all of them are on my shelves in the basement, but this one I had here because recently this was by Michael Jan Friedman, and he autographed this. Where did he autograph it? Yeah, he autographed this one for me.
Yeah, he autographed this for me too at Trek Long Island.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah. I tell you, and also this is going a little bit off script. Season 4 of Enterprise, I feel like that was the best season because I feel like the best thing they could have done for that show is what they did in season 4. They brought in Judith and Garfield Reeves.
Yes.
Creating just these amazing storylines and kind of started the beginning of serialized storytelling that, we basically get in current Trek today, with one season devoted towards one big storyline. I think
they're the ones that did the whole Vulcan Sarek storyline, the whole three arc story, the episode arc story. Besides Trek, you also appeared in the other Trek series, better known as the Orville. How was that?
The next generation homage, I like to call it. It was fun. I felt honored being a part of it because I looked at it this way. When Leonard Nimoy became what was cast as Spock, he is the template of what we see as what a Vulcan should be. Everybody else after Nimoy is basically a part of what he created in terms of mannerisms, just all things Vulcan.
Right.
And some people have played them wonderfully throughout Trek's history. And I looked at playing the Moclan Doctor as in that way, whether Orville goes 4 seasons or 40 seasons. I feel like the Moclans are obviously, everybody's new in there. But I feel like this new character that is also in the forefront as part of the main crew with, Bortus is really holding it down, Peter Macon, as far as like what a Moclan is all about. Because you're seeing Moclans really early on in the game, especially my episode about a girl, which deals with the Moclan situation. You're seeing Moclans, tall Moclans, short Moclans. I would say male and female, but apparently Moclans aren't born female, which if you spoiler alert, Moclans were called out. So
been out for a few years. We can.
Yeah.
It's like, look, if you haven't seen Battle, let's tell you, Vader is Luke's father. There.
Yeah.
No.
How is working with all the prosthetics? Because most of the work you've done has not been prosthetic work. Is that?
It's cool. I actually really love it. I love it. I don't have an issue with. I don't get claustrophobic. It itched a little bit. Like on the Moclan prosthetic, it itched. I had a constant itch on my neck, the upper part of my neck, like towards my ear. So obviously you can't scratch it. You can only like tap it just to, tap the itch out. But it wasn't a problem. I've never like, and even as Boras in Renegades, Star Trek Renegades, I didn't have a problem with it. I actually love it. I wearing the prosthetic and having all that stuff on me. It's literally like, how if you would have put on a suit or a dress, how it just kind of helps you in that moment, and you're going to be a certain way, you're going to walk a certain way, you're even going to act a certain way in a lot of
well, you have very expressive facial features. Does it limit what you can do?
A little bit, but where you make up with that is you're physical, but the eyes are a big thing. The eyes it has to tell the story even more, because in essence, that's all you have. in terms of any expressions, like if you're going to do close-ups. That's why people like Michael Dorn was so good as Worf, because
Oh yeah.
he was mad, you saw it. When he was excited, you saw it. You saw the various emotions. Robert O'Reilly, you already know his big old buggy eyes. He when he's like, whoa, it's just like, oh, but also when he's pissed off and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, it. And when you're in prosthetics, you have to compensate for what may not necessarily work if you weren't in prosthetics.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a very expressive face, and it's a blessing and a curse, because on TV you can't go too crazy, because it's going to be too much.
Yeah.
In theater, it's great, but in TV you have to tone it down and just know how to, because the camera doesn't lie, and the lens is bipartisan. It's not going
right.
to, it's not taking sides. If you suck, it's going to show.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're killing the game, it's going to show this dude's killing the game, and I'm about to show the world. But it's fun. I love doing it. I can't wait to get back in it. It's some of the best and some of the most challenging acting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. Come on, it's prosthetics. It's it's done in many genres, but sci-fi is one of the biggest genres. I mean, look at our buddy Stones. It's just like Doug is the king of that stuff.
Oh yes, yes.
And Doug be killing the game. Doug be getting up there, and no matter what he wears, you believe him.
You believe he is the creature from the Black Lagoon. You believe him that he is this lizard creature that he was in that film. Yes.
You believe him. And a lot of that also comes from a lot of our theater exercise, going back to theater exercise, movements. A lot of those funny theater exercises that even as actors, we all made fun of. If you were an animal, how would you as an animal act and be, and what kind of animal is your character, and all that kind of stuff. And those things actually make sense when you think about it, because especially if you're in prosthetics, because it's just like you have to take on a persona that is going to be shown more in your body, and of course your words, but not necessarily in your face, depending on what kind of prosthetics you're wearing. So it's great acting challenges.
So you've done the acting. Have you thought, I want to pursue writing a script? I want to be the creator of a film, or I want to be the person directing the actors because I know what it means to be an actor and how to have you thought about branching out into that, or do you just still wish to stay in front of the camera?
I would like to branch out more and do more stuff. I do have irons in the fire as we speak. I have a couple of ideas that I am floating around. I am a huge time travel nerd.
It said so on your website that you're also a time traveler.
Yes. From where, you'll never know. I love time travel stories, and I love I just love the whole idea of what time travel is all about. And I have a time travel anthology that I'm currently working on.
Oh, nice.
Cool. I'm writing, and it's in the form of various mediums that I'm really excited to bring to life. And one that's in development now, actually, that I'm working on is a love letter to my nieces and nephews. And it's also a very historical piece, and it's I'll just say stay tuned. There's some cool stuff happening, and I'm really excited about it. I love the idea of being behind the scenes in this case, because I feel like also as artists we have ideas, we have thoughts. You can't help but have ideas and things, especially when you're exposed to so many stories. And being a huge sci-fi nerd that I am, my brain is just wrapped around so many different types of stories in the world of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and just all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's going to be a time travel anthology. Each one of them, they are separate stories, but they're all connected. It's all one universe, but it's just different situations. But it deals with a family, and yeah, I'll just say stay tuned. It's
great.
Exciting. So yeah, writing and I guess in this case producing is going to be something that I will be dipping my toes in more.
Excellent. No. So many of the Star Trek actors became Star Trek directors and outside of Star Trek directing as well. And we have seen what greatness they've done. And just because they were given the opportunity to branch out and try something different, and my goodness, you think of a Ron Howard, who was a good actor, but he's a greater director. And the films he's directed, both science fiction and other story, he's a remarkable person. So, maybe that could be your next step. That's the next, movement in the next journey for you as an actor to become, behind the scenes, the person behind the camera.
Well, I will say, no matter what happens, acting will never leave me. I will never not be in front of the camera. I always feel like that's always going to be the main course as far as whatever I decide to, whatever extra I decide to pursue in this industry. I want to be a part of telling the stories that that entertain, make you laugh, make you cry, piss you off, and make you think. I also have a podcast that I'm working on as well. I can't really speak on right now, but it does deal with history and specific types of history. And I'm really excited about that because it is a bit of time traveling that's happening because of the genre, the nature of it, and how it does tie into, let's just say, what I have been immersed in and wanted to be immersed in ever since I was 6.
Is there anything you would have done different in your career or have you feel like every step you've done has been the right step to bring you to this moment in your life?
So growing up, one of the things that I've always told myself was, in some other multiverse, I'm probably either a doctor or a fireman, because I've always wanted to be. I've always loved at least seeing those professions on TV, and like, that would have been cool to do or be. And so, of course, one of the goals is to play a doctor and play a fireman as a series regular on a show, or just have a really good role where that's what I'm doing. So, yeah. But beyond that, no, there's never really been anything else that I've ever wanted to do or be a part of as far as what really fuels my soul. And really what just makes me happy. I've just always been happy creating and helping to bring other people's work to life. And this industry is nuts. Nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But there's a part of me that loves every bit of it.
I think that's true of anyone in the movie and TV industry, is that it's crazy. You never know what's going to happen next. You never know what's going to be the next turn or twist in your career. And you have to roll with the punches.
And love it, probably.
You do. And I think one of the things that was really a big test of that for myself was last year's strike. And, which started as the writer's strike. Actors ended up joining the writers, and I'd like to, I usually say nothing was the same ever since. Kind of like the pandemic, not a lot of things.
No,
nothing will ever be the same in many respects. A lot of things changed for me personally during the strike. Professionally, we all took hits.
Yes.
And there's still a huge question mark as far as what is going to happen. Where is the industry going? What is our place in the industry? How much of our place is going to change in this industry? Is it worth it being a part of it still? Well, for me, it is. I ain't going nowhere. But I understand why some people do question whether or not this is going to be an industry that is going to change for the worse in many respects. But I felt strongly enough at the time, and still do, that I need to fight for the industry that I wanted to be a part of ever since I was 6.
Yep. Okay.
So I had to get my ass out there, and I had to strike, and I had to, I was out there, man. I felt like we were fighting for the soul of Hollywood, for the future of Hollywood, for all things and for all people who have been here before us, and fighting for the future that we are basically, as the people who are in it, we're up. We're the ones who are up. Yeah. Who are basically going to be carrying it forward here from here on. Yeah. So had to fight. Had to be proud to have been there. Proud to be to have been in those trenches. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And it affected a lot of people, and I hope that those that were involved in the strike came out of it with jobs, as opposed to at some point going, I'm done with acting. I'm walking away from it. I don't need this anymore.
No one I know has done that.
That's good.
But I will say that there are some people who have felt like there might be some drastic changes that that could really truly affect, depending on what level people are at, as far as like a lot of people feel like background work may take one of the biggest hits going forward. I know people who do background work. I know people who are deeply, heavily involved in background work, who make a living off background work, respectfully. And I am very concerned for their future, because they kick ass when they're doing it, and they professionals, and they don't play. It's like they are professionals, and they deserve. We all deserve it. We all deserve to have the type of living that, if this is what we want to do, we should be able to do it without thinking about, do I need to drive Uber on the side to make up for it?
Yeah.
And that's really, in a lot of cases, many professions. But in terms of the acting profession, there is still a concern of what's going to happen going forward. So, but
we had a whole episode.
A lot will be, things will work itself out. Got to keep fighting, though. Got to keep speaking up.
We're
making things known.
You go ahead, Brian.
We're with you guys too. We had Natalia Castellanos on our show, which on Billingsley, and they brought us up to speed during the strike on what was happening. And so we were, as much as we could be, in support of the actors and the writers, because we care from our point of view about the industry and about the entertainment that entertains us. And so we were in spirit with you guys. And Steve walked a picket line at least once too, and met Michelle Hurt again, who had been on our show previously. And so we appreciate that effort. It was historic and important. Not just for the film industry. It was important for children to learn about what was happening and what you guys were standing up for. And I talked to my kids about it and said, this is what they're doing. This is why. And we should support it. So
gotta fight for those rights. I tell you, while we're out there, striking, cars everywhere. And I was mostly at the Paramount lot. I mean, I visited all the lots and walked, but I don't live too far from the Paramount lot, so I'm basically rolling head and bam, strike.
Right.
But if anybody's ever been to the Paramount lot, it's a pretty wide street, very lengthy, really wide street. And I'm saying that to say that, like, a lot of trucks go up and down. It's one of the main artery streets, so a lot of trucks going out. But what's always cool is when we were out there, we would see school buses every now and then. And the trucks would come by, they'd give, they'd show their love.
Mm-hmm.
The police would come by, they roll by, whoop, whoop, show their love. Fire trucks, whoop, whoop, show their love. The kids, though, in the school bus, all of a sudden you see all these little kids going, yeah! It's just the cutest, but the coolest thing, because I don't know if the bus driver said something, or maybe they learned something. Maybe the teachers told them something, because, teachers always supposed to go on strike.
Oh, yes.
But all I know is when those kids rolled by in that school bus, and you got that love, man. It was cute, but it was also like, hey, you little ungrateful bastards, we're doing this for you guys.
That was the solidarity. Yeah. I mean, that was, living here in the LA area and driving by Disney or driving out by Paramount and having people just honking their horns and the LAPD saying, don't honk your horns, you're making too much noise or whatever. And it was just so great to see the fans, the people just on the street showing their support of you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a beautiful thing because at the end of the day, hey, listen, we're doing this so you can continue to be entertained. We're doing this so your kids can continue to be entertained. We're doing this so, hey, we can get more Star Trek. We're doing this.
Right.
So,
that's right.
We're doing this so we can talk about things, so we can talk about the shows that we're a part of. So we can release season 2 of Prodigy. So we can get Starfleet Academy going, so we can get, release Section 31. So you can get, hopefully one day, Star Trek Legacy.
Legacy.
Yay! Yes. We all believe in that one. So,
I mean, I hope it happens. But at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing from the adults to the kids, just the love to fuel us and keep us, give us, it's cliche, but really it helped to give the hope. It helped keep the hope alive in terms of making us feel like what we're doing is so important because no matter what kids want to do growing up, it's like you gotta know that you have to have certain rights, and there just has to be certain things that have to be questioned and called out. And sometimes it gets to the point where it does have to end up being a thing where it's just like, well, look, we have an issue here. I don't know if I can keep doing this if we can't work this out. So I'm glad the strike was over. I'm glad you guys got back to work because you will only bring more entertainment to us, and we need something to look forward to, and that's usually going to the movies or turning on a TV show, seeing a familiar character, seeing a familiar actor, and knowing that it's all right. Art makes the world go round. I mean, look, during lockdown, art was one of the things that really helped our sanity.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything that was happening. People were scared. People were unsure of life as we know it going forward. There were a lot of factors that just really made us feel like we were in the Twilight Zone and or as I call it, the mirror universe, So,
that's a good description. Yes.
Yeah. So as a result, one of the things that really helped keep that sanity was art. It's like, listen to music. We'd watch somebody we'd watch John Bon Jovi doing a concert in his living room where he could sell out a stadium and he's doing it for free. You know what I mean? We're watching artists do what they can to also keep their art alive, but also just keep people entertained while we're sitting in our little boxes and trying to keep some level of contact with life and humanity. And it's a beautiful thing. So
yes.
Yeah. So, any other questions from the trio of us for Rico before we thank him for being on the show?
Just want to say this has been a blast. Thank you for coming on the show, Mr. Anderson. Pleasure to talk with you and to meet you. And maybe we'll have you back on again when this anthology thing rolls around. We'd love to help promote that if we can.
I
talk
would
about
love
time travel. Yes.
Yes.
Full episode on time travel.
Only if you don't never call me Mr. Anderson again.
Okay.
Or if you're gonna do it like it's
Mr. Anderson.
Like that.
There you go. We'll do it that way. All right. Well,
I would love
then,
to come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Thank you. So, with that, well, to my fellow members of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, thank you for playing the home game of Get to Know a Journeyman Actor. Equal points to all members, yet for some reason, I came out last. How did that happen? I don't know. Anyway, and thank you, Rico, for being a guest on our podcast. I hope you had fun answering our various questions. We
awesome.
wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors and one day having your own TV series. One can only dream. And thank you again to our listeners to the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. We love getting together to discuss TV, movies, and literature. That is all things sci-fi. Please follow us on your favorite, please follow us on our new public Facebook page and share with us your thoughts and comments on this episode or any of our prior episodes. And be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram. Send us your thoughts and comments directly to our email address of thebigscifipodcast@gmail.com. We will gladly reply, and your comments help to move up the pecking order of podcasts. Peck, peck, peck. I feel like a chicken. And as always, I leave you with these parting words. Look to the skies, live long and prosper.